Let's bring in our political editor, Andrew Clennell now. We'll get to that in a moment, but you've got some news ahead of Anthony Albanese's important budget reply tonight.
Yeah, big budget reply speech for Anthony Albanese this evening. You'll see it on Sky News. I've been promised it is policy heavy. Many would say it needs to be. The central item will be childcare. I'm told it won't be a policy of free childcare, as has been speculated, but it will be about workforce participation. So let's see if it involves an even greater subsidy than the government. Anthony Albanese then, he went to question time. He and his front benchers asked a lot of questions about childcare. Scott Morrison said, if you spend any money, you've got to show us where you're going to get it. Considering there's more than $400 billion of deficits over the next 4 years, that's not the line it used to be, but have a listen.
The budget had nothing additional for childcare. Why is this Prime Minister punishing parents for working an extra hour or an extra day when they're just trying to get ahead during the Morrison recession?
The Leader of the Opposition tonight, if he wishes to spend more on something, because he says the budget deficit is too big, he says the debt is too great, if he wishes to spend more, then he needs to say, Mr Speaker, what he's going to cut. The Leader of the Opposition has an each-way bet on everything, Mr Speaker.
There'll be mention of infrastructure as well, perhaps a commitment to a project or two, because there wasn't a big-ticket infrastructure promise in the budget. A manufacturing policy as well. The theme will be haves and have-nots out of the budget, and there is a couple of opportunities for Albanese there. One is the perceived lack of initiatives for women. Scott Morrison fired up on this morning.
There will be voices that will try and set young people against older people, women against men, jobs in one sector versus jobs in another sector. They are the voices of division that will undermine the future economic prosperity of all Australians.
But perhaps an even bigger sleeper out of the budget is the fact that you can gain as an employer this JobMaker hiring credit worth $100 to $200 a week for under 35s. The government's been saying, including question time, you also have Restart for over 50s. That's a $10,000 subsidy, but you have to be on JobSeeker for 6 months in order to qualify for that. So the Young People Initiative, they're expecting 450,000 to be affected. Since 2014, the over 50s measures only impacted 50,000. Surely this massively hinders 35 to 50-year-olds getting a job. Why would you hire a 45-year-old when you can get $5,000 as an employer for hiring a 34-year-old? Presumably, it would have cost around $12 billion to have it across the population for 1.4 million people we've heard are on JobSeeker. If you wanted to target youth unemployment, you could have done a bigger subsidy for under 25s and spread out the subsidies. But this policy came on Treasury advice that the damage to long-term unemployment from young people not getting jobs was the biggest structural issue in the decades ahead. Here is Josh Frydenberg, the Treasurer, explaining at the Press Club yesterday why it was important to make this age distinction.
Following the recession in the 1990s, it took nearly 10 years for the unemployment rate to return to pre-recession levels. For younger Australians, it took a remarkable 15 years. 15 years for young Australians to get back to the employment levels that they were prior to the recession in the 1990s.